May Christ's love permeate all life on earth. From the center where the peace of God is known, may peace spread across the land. May we all be servants to its expression. From the center which we call the heart of all, may the plan of love and light and peace express and ever seal the door where darkness dwells. May light and love, power and peace restore wholeness on earth. Good afternoon, everybody. People are still coming in. Come on in, Greg. That was the great invocation. One of Finley's favorite prayers, he said every single day of his life. A little bit of, we argued about some of the words, but I used as many of his as I possibly could and remember. You're all sitting like you're looking for a presentation here. We are being streamed, and there are people online watching, and they want to see you because this, Finley was very clear with me. He was very clear. He said, I don't want a service. Don't be doing anything. And I said, how about if we get together and we just share stories and do a little roast on you? And he says, okay, I'm all right with that. So I'm going to invite you guys to get in a circle. And Christine, come join the circle and come up here, because when you share, I hope you will share, because this will be very short if you don't share. But this is just an opportunity to say goodbye and to say hello. Every goodbye contains a hello. And we're going to use a microphone just so the people online can hear us. Nobody's going to scoot up here. Come on, Sherry did. Scoot closer, because that camera's going to catch y'all. But again, in honoring Finley's wishes, he was not a formal guy, so I left the coat off. Kick off your shoes if you want and relax. But he was a beautiful man. And I will share my own thoughts of Finley, but I'd like to have, is it Edward, you're going to read it? Okay, to read the official obituary to get things going, and then we're just going to pass the microphone around as we celebrate the light of this beautiful man.
Finley Eversole, PhD, was a philosopher, educator, activist, and advocate for the role of the arts in evolution and consciousness. In the 1960s, he was active in the civil rights and women's movements, the anti-Vietnam War movement, and participated in organizing the first Earth Day in New York City in 1970. As executive director of the Society for the Arts, Religion, and Contemporary Culture, he worked with such cultural leaders as Joseph Campbell, W.H. Auden, Alan Watts, Marianne Moore, and Alfred H. Barr, Jr., founder of the New York's Museum of Modern Art. A former university professor and small business owner for 10 years, he edited and contributed to Christian Faith and Contemporary Arts, is the author of Art and Spiritual Transformation, and planned and edited several volumes on solutions to global problems, the first of all which is Infinite Energy Technologies, which includes Tesla, cold fusion, anti-gravity, and the future of sustainability. The second is Energy Medicine Technologies, which is ozone healing, microcrystals, frequency therapy, and the future of health. In addition to creating a real wealth economy, which is 2 volumes, it addresses environmental problems and solutions and forces shaping global transformation. Eversole is biographed in Who's Who in the World 2011 to 2014, and also the 30-year Pearl Anniversary edition. You can always Google Finley Eversole and get a lot more information on him. Thank you for letting me share this.
Finley got more done in a day than most of us in a lifetime.
I wrote this down when I first heard. Whoops. Okay. I wrote this down when I first heard that Finley had transitioned over. And I said to myself, today we celebrate the extraordinary life of our dear teacher, Finley Eversole, whose light shone brightly. Finley had a remarkable ability to distill the complexities of the Alice Bailey teachings into simple truths offering clarity in times of confusion and solace in moments of despair. I personally reached out to him for comfort and understanding after my dad's difficult death from dementia. You might remember me crying in class. He gave us precious pearls of insight, shaping our thoughts and enriching our lives. He believed in the power of education, and through his classes, he instilled in us a thirst for knowledge and an acceptance that all is in divine order, even though it doesn't seem like it. Finley was serious but funny, gentle but strong. He never wavered from his personal moral compass and lived his life from a giving, trusting paradigm. He had a personal relationship with the master teachers, especially close during his meditations. He once told us of his experience of going beyond the veil and seeing wondrous colors, hearing exquisite music, and seeing the world that was yet to come. While we are experiencing this transition between the Piscean age and the Aquarian age, with all its struggles between the old ways and the new ways, he reassured us that the divine plan will out, and Earth will eventually become a spiritual planet and a healthy place for our descendants to live. There is no doubt in my mind that Finley is enjoying his new experience. He welcomes the rest, and once his soul is ready, he will come back to our planet to help humanity experience a Christ-like way of living together, to live as God intended, as one expression of the divine. We will miss you and your gentle nature, Finley. It was so wonderful our paths crossed with yours. We love you. Thank you.
I have a letter here from William Brockman. I don't know if any of you had a chance to meet him. He was a lifelong friend of Finley's for over 80 years. And I had a chance to meet Bill and his wife last Christmas when they visited Finley. And all of them knowing it would be for the last time. So it was very bittersweet. And I've talked to Bill a couple of times since Finley's passing. And he wrote a letter that he'd like me to share with you. I met Finley when we were about 12, years ago, and we have been good friends over the years. To my memory, we met when I started delivering the newspaper to his folks' apartment. Finley claimed he first saw me when we were 4, and he knew then we were going to be friends. We chatted briefly every afternoon when I stopped to put the paper on his porch. We were going to separate grammar schools in Birmingham, Alabama, so contact was minimal. We did attend the same high school, and he joined the same church group that I attended at a nearby Methodist church. We decided about the same time that we wanted to be ministers, along with 4 or 5 other young men from our congregation. Finn entered Birmingham Southern College, a Methodist school, and I finished my last 2 years at the same school. Without consulting each other, we decided to do our seminary training at Vanderbilt University Divinity School, so we spent 3 years in classes together and the last 2 years as roommates. Finn was always a thoughtful and excellent student, and when he graduated, began work with Motive magazine. I believe that was a Methodist publication for college students. He married a young woman from Memphis, Tennessee, and soon after the wedding, they moved to New Jersey so he could take a position with the inter-seminary movement of the Methodist Church, located in New York City. My wife and I and 2-month-old son spent 2 weeks with them while searching for housing in New York City. He seemed very pleased with his work, and his reputation as a thought leader was growing. We continued to see one another over the next 4 or 5 years, and he had taken a position as director of an organization that was composed of artistic, theological, philosophical, and psychological thought leaders in the New York City area. Sometime in the 1970s, he decided to end his ordination as a Methodist minister and began studying with a spiritual elder who was his guide for a number of years. Over the next 30 years or so, he moved around the country, started an organization, and had a variety of positions until he decided to return to Alabama and be near his aging parents. These were difficult and at the same time rewarding years. He provided enormous assistance to his mom and dad after his dad's death. He moved in with his mom, who was developing dementia, and took wonderful care of her. I once spent an evening and night with him and got to witness firsthand his loving care. Following his mom's death, he decided to move to Woodstock, Georgia. Early in his life, he had lived in the Atlanta area and was very pleased with his experiences. His final years in Woodstock were filled with some of the best times of his life. His association with the Unity congregation was very affirming, and the opportunities to teach were enormously fulfilling for him. He felt very loved and appreciated. The last 2.5 years under hospice care and his slow decline was accepted graciously by him. We spoke every week or so during that time, and my wife and I were able to visit with him just before Christmas in 2022 and 23. He reiterated a number of times that he was not afraid to die, since he was completely convinced in an existence of his spirit until it was his time to re-enter human form. He teased me since he knew I had some skepticism about this notion. I would always reply that I hoped he was right in his belief. Finley was an original. He marched to his own inner drumbeat. He cared about all the important social, moral, environmental issues. He was always considering solutions for our most pressing social issues. He was an excellent writer, having completed at least 2 major books and edited 2 or 3 others. He was a loving person who was looking forward to his return to human form so he could continue his work and growth. I am missing you, old friend. You hold that. And I would like to read something that colored Finley's teachings. We've all heard some of this before. This is in his book, The Art and Spiritual Transformation, The 7 Stages of Death and Rebirth. And this is written in Finley's own words. In 1970, I had a spontaneous mystical experience. As I sat one afternoon visiting with a friend and listening to music, the room suddenly began to glow, becoming brighter and brighter until all at once everything appeared as pure light. Then as though a veil had fallen away, I saw the universe consisting of flowing streams and rivers of living light, entering and passing through the myriad ever-changing forms of manifest life. Forms changed and faded, but the light of life within them circulated ever onward, never ceasing. Immediately, I knew there is no death. No longer aware of the music on the stereo, I now heard only the purest music, the music beyond imagination, the indescribable Om, or celestial song of the cosmos. And I felt and knew that all is manifestation of an infinite love. Vision after vision followed for an hour. Then the experience ended as abruptly as it had begun. Never before or since have I experienced such a profound sense of peace. In the few notes I scribbled following the experience, I wrote, "Consciousness lights up reality. The total universe shines. Everyone is Christ." In that hour, I witnessed the dance of life. By December 1970, I had discovered the mystical and esoteric traditions and plunged myself into the study of the wisdom literature of the ages. On January 1st, 1971, I took up the discipline of meditation in the hope one day of re-experiencing the vision beyond the veil. Since that time, I've been engaged in the long and often difficult journey and search for the divine self within, that self which unites us all. This is a journey that has a beginning but no end. The road of divine self-unfoldment is eternal. Thank you. Anyone else like to speak?
Don't be shy.
Please. Don?
I'll just say some chatty things. When I came into Finley's class, I realized I had been exposed to some of this information about the Mahatmas and stuff. One of the things I experienced with Finley is when anyone asked a question and they didn't understand it, he could reword it. He would come around some other way to make sure they understood it. And if they still needed more tweaking, he could do that. My experience in the past when I learned this was that that person would still just repeat the same thing they had said. Finley knew this stuff. He knew the Mahatmas, And it was so alive, his relationship as he talked about the Tibetan. I brought him in the book with Helena Blavatsky's beginnings, and he said he didn't know that. He didn't know about her experiences and stuff. So he read that book, and then I can say this in this room, but I brought in The Secret Doctrine, which he very politely returned to me after a little while, because that is really awesome to get involved in. But it was very interesting to share some of that stuff with him.
Many times he told me the happiest time of his life was living here and being with us. That was just he said if his whole life he was most happy and pleased sharing with all of us in class. He said the function of a true teacher is to share understanding and offer guidance, but never to interfere with the free will or choices of the disciple. And this is exactly what he did in all the times that I went over to his house, because I lived close by. And we would talk for hours about stuff. He would just bring stuff up, but never like told you what to do or anything at all. It was for you to find that, take that and find your own, your path with it, so to speak. So this is exactly what he did. Now, although a highly educated author with vast knowledge of metaphysics, his demeanor was always that of a close friend. It was easy to sit for long periods and talk about everything with him. But his most favorite subject was what he called the wisdom teachings, which was the subject of the class. Unfortunately, I understood virtually none of it and experienced even less. Nonetheless, I thoroughly enjoyed not only his classes, but our many hours of sitting together and talking about this and everything else in the world. Somehow, one time we were talking, I said I had done the first service when Richard was absent, and we played some music and stuff. And he said, well, that'd be nice. I'd like to hear that. And I says, well, you know, a friend of mine, Glenn, who's with us here today, he and I played some music, and maybe we can come over and play it for you. So I talked to Glenn, and Glenn said, yeah, sure, we'll go over one day. So Glenn and I went over and did the songs from that first service, and he called it his private concert. He really enjoyed us going over and sharing that with him. So, and we did too. It was fun. As many of you know, the class was suspended during COVID, so we couldn't get together, and so we decided to have anyone who wanted to bring to send in an email to Finley, and then he would respond to that email. And this way we could have his take on all these questions. And so I decided, for some reason, I felt very strongly that this needs to be captured, because if somebody doesn't do something, this is all going to be gone. So I collected all these emails and put them into a document, and for those who were not there, either in the class or were not, on the email list or whatever. So to have his take on our questions for any future seekers and students availed to them, and for those who were not able to make it to see him personally. So it would have been a shame for us all to be lost. And so if you would like that document, it's a collection of his emails in a chronological order, just kind of as they were asked and as they were answered. I can pass a little paper around and write down your email. I've already sent it out to a lot of people. You don't want to print it. It's about 500 pages. So, so I think soft copy is probably the best way to go. That way you can also, the thing is, it really needs an index. But so if you haven't soft copy, it's in a PDF. You can just do a word search, because even though people were asking questions, sometimes very complex questions, his answers were huge and they were all over the place. So even if you go to look up one particular email and it says, the title of it, whatever it was, there's going to be a bunch of stuff into there. So the best way to do it is to just, do a PDF and do it on real time, and that way you can do a word search on a particular subject or word that you're looking for, all the way down to all these 182 questions that we have. So if you'd like that, let me know, and we'll get your email.
And Colleen had a lot to do with that. Colleen is the administrator.
Yes. Chris and Colleen, these two collected all things for me because I didn't have all of them. I thought I saved all of them, and I didn't. So after a period of about a month or so, the three of us were pretty confident we got them all assembled. And then, of course, the job was to format and edit and reword and check for spelling, all that stuff, and get it into a common format so it looked like one document. So anyway. Finley lives on. That's right. It's true. I mean, that's the reason I was motivated was now we've got something that we have, and if going forward, and although I'll never understand 10% of it, that doesn't matter. You read something, it speaks to you, go with it, and don't worry about the rest. So.
Thank you for acknowledging me with putting that all together and passing it on. I will say, Richard, I apologize, but Finley is the reason why I came to this church. And then I fell in love with you second. So don't feel bad. Yeah, really. The one thing that stands out in my mind is that as class secretary, and then when COVID hit, was to try and read as much as I could to find some questions that might satisfy his need to be with everybody. So I did a lot of reading during COVID, and sometimes my questions would be rejected, and most of them went through. And as I explained to him when I was in class, many times, Finley, I didn't get any of that. And it was a little bit embarrassing, but that was something that I shared with him. I didn't share with you, but I really didn't understand a lot that he was trying to teach me. And he would say to me, don't worry, if you don't get it in this lifetime, you'll get it in the next. So I'm looking forward to maybe becoming a professor like him in my next lifetime, because I have all that in my head. I just don't know what to do with it.
I want to give a shout out real quick to Richard too, because Finley approached Richard to do this class, and Finley had not been coming here, if at all, much, and so Richard said, well, we'll see, and then eventually he, for some reason, agreed that he would allow Finley to have this class. I want to shout out to Richard for taking a little bit of faith here and stepping out and letting Finn do whatever he was going to do.
I interviewed him. I knew within 10 minutes we need to have this class. I'll go ahead and share since nobody else wants the mic. I'll just say, because you pointed me out, his intellect, we can talk for days and days and days about his intellect, his wisdom, his knowledge. And I'm grieving Finley, my friend. The visits that we had in his home were precious to me. And he spoke over my head too and said things, and then we found common ground and shared really esoteric spiritual things that I carry with me today. But I do want to extend on his behalf to this class, in particular, Jerry Farmer. This class came through for him. Kathleen McKinley, Larry and Linda, Don, the names go on and on and on. And what I remember is Finley, the man who shared how touched he was to have people care for him. He could have died very alone. He told me that he thought he'd never step foot into a church again. And what he felt here in this environment was a love and a kindness and a compassion that was demonstrated from the minute he walked into the room, but it was demonstrated to the minute he walked out of this room and ascended. And I don't want the moment to go without mentioning the people that stepped up for this man, like he was a father. It was beautiful, and I want you to know you gave him a gift that touched him at depth. And he didn't cry much, but he got right to the edge of tears when he talked about his family. And so, it was one of the wisest decisions I made. But I think it was one of the wisest decisions that he made as well, because he got a family that he didn't have. And so thank you all for being Finley's family and embracing him as beautifully, as wonderfully as I did. I will miss him. I will miss his teachings, and I hope you carry it. I've tried to talk any one of you to pick it up and to keep it going. I don't know, but God always provides the right person at the right time, and I'm really grateful for the divine appointment, having met Finley Eversole, and I look forward to, I'm going to be looking around the earth for some child that's going to be brilliant, who's come back to earth and say, Finley?
I was given the privilege of being in Finley's very first class in this room, and within about 30 minutes, because he and I had some similar backgrounds. I had studied in the Theosophical Societies for many, many years, and so we had similar backgrounds as far as the Eastern teachings were. And when he started talking, it was like going back to old school again. I felt very comfortable with it. But I realized, and we had a dialogue after that very first class, and he basically said to me, do you think they're getting this? And I said, you know they're getting it. They might not understand it, but they are getting it. And so I decided that I would record it. And I bought my recording equipment here and recorded, I think, the first month or month and a half, which have been 4 recordings, maybe 5 recordings. I don't know whatever happened to those because I turned them over to somebody. I'm not. Yeah, because I think what happened there was, and the feedback I would get from him afterwards, because sometimes he and I would talk afterwards, and it was so important to him that what he was sharing was authentic, that it was clear. He was not proselytizing, he was not teaching or preaching. He basically put out an opportunity for people to be exposed to things that they might not have ever had a chance to look at. And he was a masterful teacher. I don't say that about a lot of people. I've met a lot of so-called master teachers over the years, and Finley was the real deal. He understood. He's very humble, but I saw his dander get up a couple of times as well, which I was so pleased that I was talking to a human being there, because there was several times I was wondering who I was dealing with. But he is, I just can't see. Every so often, somebody comes along in your life that will demonstrate and show you and practice those things that you've studied and you've looked at yourself. But he was the personification of what he taught. He was authentic, he was clear, and he will be greatly missed. And there's so much more about him, all the books that he wrote, and many of the things that he was involved with, like was shared earlier, that I think there's much more that has never been really uncovered about who he was and the things he was doing. Because a mind like that, a soul like that, that dedicates weeks and hours of preparation for something that he already knows, just so he could present it in a way that people could understand it. That's dedication, that's love, that shows, where a person's at. So, see you soon, buddy.
I was in some of Finley's classes, and then Parish Hall started meeting, and I was there at the same time. Can't be in 2 places at once yet. But anyway, I'm here representing Bradley. He was in every class that we were here. And thank you for the emails. They came out, and we would share them once we weren't coming here because of COVID. I wonder if Bradley and Finn are having some discussions. What do you think?
I remember Harry Cohn was a very close friend.
Yes.
And I had lunch with him once a month, and we would talk. And he says, I don't understand a word the man's saying. But he got it. He'd come back month after month and go, I think I understand what he's saying now. And I have the reunion of Kurt and Bradley and Harry and Finley. They're up there sitting around a table eating to their heart's content.
And it's interesting you should mention Harry, because when I went over with Debbie to Finley's house not too long before his transition, I was saying, gee, I really miss Harry, you know, I really miss him. And he said, oh, I say you said hello to him. And it was like, you know, he was going to go around to the corner deli and be with Harry, you know. It was just, and it was just wonderful to be with somebody who was near transition but had no fear of that transition. Because a lot of folks I've been around, as they get close, they, you know, get scared and want to hang on. And he was just, wow, it was amazing. And a question I ask a lot of wise folks like Finley is, you know, what are you going to do? Are you going to go on to the angelic planes, or are you going to come back and be of more service to others? And, you know, without hesitation, he was one of those, as some have said, he was going to come back and continue to help out. So, you know, hats off to him there. And one last thing is that just reminded me of, there was that story about the great Indian saint Ramana Maharshi, who was dying of cancer, and he could have healed himself, and so his followers said, you know, don't leave us, Ramana, and, you know, heal yourself. And he said to him, don't be silly, where would I go?
Finley was really a special person, and as a teacher, but also as a friend. And I got to know the practical side of the Capricorn in Finley. And I would visit his home, and I would think, oh my gosh, those weeds, I must pull those weeds. And I would pull weeds in his yard. And then I would plant flowers so that he could have something beautiful to see. And it was the first time he'd ever seen a moonflower bloom. And so I would go, and sometimes we would just talk, and of course, he already knew all the answers, so he already had the script, you know, and I would just ask the questions. But sometimes we would just sit and meditate together for a little while. And he came over to our house when he could still get around real easily, and Sherry and Bill were there, and we had a little dinner that honored the honeybee. And I told everyone, you have to bring some type of quote about a bee. It has to have the word bee in there. So you know how he loved stuff like that, and we're all going around the table and saying our quotes and everything. He said, well, I don't know if this counts, but Ram Dass said, be here now. So we all had a great laugh about that. But he loved Ram Dass, and he had a lot of communicated with him, and actually put on some type of something in Atlanta with Ram Dass. So he did know him. And but let me see. Just trying to think of a few more things. Years ago, the Unity North went on a trip to Ireland. And sometime before that, I had this dream, and in this dream was this man that looked like Finley. And he told me that when we came back, that he was going to be our teacher. And so I told Finley that several times, and we kind of had a good laugh about it. But he was a teacher, but he was also a dear friend. And I spent some time with him before he transitioned. And as most of you know, Finley graciously gave Angel to me, his beautiful ragdoll cat, that he didn't know why he had to have it, but he had to have it. So, but I know he wanted me to have it, and she's brought so much love into Greg in our home and in our lives, and every time I look at her, you know, I know he's there. So, but we talked a lot, and so I know this is mostly about me, but it's how our relationship evolved and what it was about. It wasn't always about, you know, the teaching and everything. It was about being human and needing someone and honoring someone and allowing someone to be who they are. And Finley was wonderful at that. Not to mention that he's a descendant from Abraham Lincoln. So I'm sure everyone in the room knows that. But one night I was there, and well, 2 times he's done this, and he wanted me to make this Jell-O dessert from like, I guess the 1950s or 40s or something, and it was a Jell-O dessert that had olives and onions and really weird stuff. So I made it from his mother's recipe book. And apparently, you know, I realized a little bit later that it wasn't exactly the way it was supposed to be, but he ate every bit of it. So anyway, and never said a word. That's the kind of friend he was. And then when I went to see him for the last time, we sat in his room, and he looked at me and he said, "I want to know about you. What about you? Tell me about you." And so I thought, oh my gosh, well, what am I going to share with this, you know, intellectual and, you know, this teacher that is way beyond anything I've ever imagined. But anyway, I decided I would share my poetry with him. And so he sat there and listened to poem after poem after poem after poem. And he would smile after each one. Never said a word, but he would smile. And finally he said, "I'd like to go to sleep now." And so that's how I left him. And so I love him and I miss him. And I know he's with us here today.
The people online texted me and said they can't see you. They want to see you. They missed you, Debbie. So wave at the camera. But if you could come, it's right there.
Can
I see me now? I don't know. I think you probably have to come up here. So come where they can see you. Come closer.
I just wanted to say one quick thing about Finley, because I didn't get to spend a lot of time with him, but I know he really supported my mom and dad. And they had a very close relationship with him. And to watch how they cared for him and how he cared for them was really important to me. And I got to spend a couple of times by myself with him like a couple of years ago. And one thing I can say about Finley is that he treated everybody exactly the same way. Exactly the same way. It didn't matter how much education you had or what your age was. He loved my son, who's 9 right now, but I mean, he spent time with my son. And he always felt seen. My son always felt seen by him, and he really liked him. And I kept asking him, "What is it that you like about him?" "I don't know, he's a cool guy." And so I just really, that's what I wanted to say about Finley, is that, you know, the way he touched my heart was to see how he touched everybody else's heart. And I only got to spend a few brief times with him, just me and him. And my husband worked at his house for a little while. He built a shed for him in his backyard, and just the way he talks to people, even when he's frustrated about something, like he still has care about other people, and that just meant a lot to me to be able to witness that in such a really interesting and awesome guy.
You're right. If you didn't get it, you said your soul gets it no matter what. And Vern, you touched on one thing about he could get a little mad, as Larry and I know. I went one Saturday to his house. He had been on the floor all night long. He had fallen and hit his head on a table, and he went to the hospital because he had to be cleaned up. He said, "Don, don't ever let me go to the hospital again." and he put the threat on me. And by the way, remind me, you're to play Three Dog Night. Jeremiah was a bullfrog. He said that's got to be played at my memorial service. That's important. I mean, Louis Armstrong's good too, but he wanted that. So, anyways, I got to spend many, many hours with him, and it was such a blessing. I told him one time, he said, I'm just an average guy. I said, Finley, do you realize that the life you've led? He hitchhiked clear across the country by himself. I said, I don't believe you had the nerve to do it. And met so many interesting people and found a lot of generosity out there. And like he said, you look for the good, you find the good. And I told him, I've looked for the good in a couple people, and I've never been able to see it. And he said, that's all right. Maybe it's just not there at that moment. I said, okay, I'll forgive myself and move on. But anyways, we got to go out for several lunches, and that was really nice. And I remember the last time that we went shopping, we went up to the Walmart, and he was just worn out. He come home, he said, I don't think I'll ever be able to do this again. And little did I know that would be the last time. I said, well, and then Sherry stepped in. I thank you, Sherry. After 2.5 years, I was going down. It was tiring, but it was well worth it. And all the other experience you talked about, that he got married once, and the only regret he had in life is he never had any children. And I told him, when you come back this next time, I hope you have a child like my daughter, Lori. He got to talk to her on the phone, never got to meet her in person, but they would have a great conversation on the phone. And as I told my daughter, I admire her that you could carry on a conversation like, she said, well, Dad, I feel like I know him through you. I said, well, he's a great guy. I said, I feel it's a privilege to have known him. And like you said, everybody here meant so much to him. It just really touched his heart. And how do I say this? He says, when I make my transition, I'll be talking to Kurt, Bradley, and Harry and giving your best. And I said, okay, guys, thank you. So anyway, that's it for now.
It just turns out, I was at Walmart one day, walking into the Walmart. I don't know if Linda was there or not. And this white car goes blowing by me. I bet it didn't miss me by 12 inches. I look down, and there's Finley, and Don's driving. So the last time he went, he almost killed me. Yeah. Several days before his transitions, last time I saw him, he was not feeling well, as you can imagine. And I leaned down, I grabbed his hand, and I said, it was time for me to leave. And I said, I got to go, goodbye. And he says, well, I'll see you on the other side. And I said, well, look for me, and I'm glad I found you. And he said, okay.
I think Finley holds a record as far as hospice. He's been in hospice for 2.5 years. The doctor said, your heart's going to quit. It's going to be any day now. And 2.5 years later, it finally stopped. But I think the last 4 times I saw him, he said, well, this is probably our last visit. And I'm really grateful for I went looking for the picture, because I had a picture, Debbie, I have to find it, of a gorgeous picture of Finley and Angel. I don't know if I've sent it to you, but that was, I think, one of the final visits. I was really grateful for those that were there with him. I was not looking forward to it. He loved you so much. He said, I don't want any of my classmates to have to find my body and deal with that. I want you to do that. And luckily, the hospice took care of everything, and Sherry took care of everything. Yeah. Anybody want to share anything else before we conclude?
Where's Finley now? Is he cremated somewhere?
In the 12th dimension.
I'd just like to say he didn't have any children, but he made a wonderful friend called Helena, and I'm hoping that she's online right now. He made her his heir. They were friends for years, and I think she was like a surrogate daughter to him, and he just received a lot of love from her, and they're relationship together. And when you talked about his wanting that Jell-O thing, I made it till I got it right, and then he ate it every day for 2 months. And he kept having me order all the supplies for it, and then one day he just said, I don't want any more. So the supplies are still sitting there. Yeah.
I was first. I made his favorite pineapple upside down cake. And I made it and took it to him every week. And finally he told me, I don't want this anymore. So the Jell-O came second.
Yeah. I could not believe I would set out 3 bowls of it, and after I left, he would eat them, and every day I'd set out 3 more bowls, and he just ate that onion and tomato juice and Jell-O, and yeah, I tasted it. Yeah, yes, I tasted it.
One other person who loved that, and my wife loves tomato aspirin.
Oh,
Finley.
yeah. Maybe Helena will give you the supplies. There were olives in it and onions, and one taste was all it took for me to know that I would never eat it again. It was horrible. Yeah.
Anybody else?
Just one more thing I wanted to say, and I'll kind of look up here a little bit. I sat by the door because I have a cough and I didn't want to disrupt anyone, but Finley always told me, and he said it to me several times, and I guess he hoped that at one point I would hear what he was saying. He would say, whatever you do in this lifetime to better yourself or to learn more or to whatever it is you do, it will carry on to the next lifetime. So yeah.
Hi all. It's been a long time, and I want to thank each and every one of you that have been on this journey. Granted, I've taken a pause since COVID and traffic and all that other stories I've created, but I just had to come here because it's like Finley brought us all together. His words, his demeanor, his personhood is what brought us all together, and I'm so grateful to that. You know, and I've been to Finley's house when he first bought that, and I know how proud he was. The first home he bought. Then the tree branch fell on it, and I'm like, I can't take care of this guy. He's on the other side of town from me. But I'm so glad to see the love and the connection from all of you here that helped make Finley's life, you know, that much more special for all of us. He's not gone. He's right here in every one of us in this room, and thank you for that.
Good seeing you, Devin. No, I want to say one other thing about Finley's cat. I drove him to Anniston, Alabama to get that cat, and it's probably one of the best things he could have gotten. Many people didn't favor that, but that cat gave him life. He was like the energy buddy. When that cat came into his life, he had an all purpose. It made a difference, but at the end, he didn't want to sleep with the cat anymore, and that cat would bite him, and bite him hard. He couldn't understand that. I said, she's mad at you for not letting her sleep with it. It's a typical woman.
You're going to pay for that one, Don? I think we can all say, and those that are not here or watching online, that our world is a better place because Finley Eversole walked the earth. My life is a better place because Finley Eversole crossed my path, and I think a lot of people can say that. And so, just in our closing times, I invite you to get still. You know, when death comes, even when it is not sudden, and we knew this was coming for a long time, it leaves words that you wish you had expressed, feelings that went unexpressed, and you just wish you'd taken the moment to do that. But we know that no soul has ever gone beyond the power and the reach of prayer and of stillness. And so I invite you to just go into a moment of silence, to feel his presence in this room. It's profound. This church is a better place because of Finley Eversole. He told me some of you were going to quit the church, but you stayed because he was here. This church has been blessed by this man, and the wisdom that he brought, it is in this room. It lives in this room. and his heart is as close as the heart beating in your chest right now. Just say what you need to say quietly and know that it hits its mark. It finds its space. And then I'll break with a song, and then we'll maybe sing a little Three Dog Night. Remember me in the melting snow. Remember me in the river's flow. Look for me in the mountains tall, for I am part of it all. Hear me in the wind as it blows. I'm in the scent of each lovely rose. Feel my warmth in the shining sun, for I am all and all is one. For I am everywhere and I have always been here since time began. I am, and I will never leave you, for I am your friend. Look inside of your heart, there I am. Remember me in a cloud-filled sky. I'm in each tree as it reaches high, in every grain of sand, every raindrop small. Yes, I am part of it all. Look for me in each other's eyes, and hear my voice in a baby's cry. Feel my touch as you help someone, for I am all and all is one. Remember me when you can't go on, and think of me when all hope is gone, and when you're all alone and no one seems to care, I will always be there. For I am everywhere and I have always been here since time began. I am, and I will never leave you, for I am your friend. Look inside of your heart, there I am. Remember me. Remember me. Dearest friend Finley, this is not goodbye, but until we meet again, may the road rise up to meet you. May the sun shine warmly on your back, and may the rains fall soft upon your fields. And may God hold you in the palm of his hand, her hand, its hand. Godspeed, dear friend. Let us say the prayer for protection for Finley. The light of God surrounds you. The love of God enfolds you. The power of God protects you. And the presence of God watches over you. Wherever you are, God is, and all is well. And so it is. I'm not sure what key you all can sing it. So Tara, if it's in the wrong key for me, Wait. Come on, Tom Ballinger. I need you to sing it. Jerem. Where is it? I can't find it. He's a good friend of mine. There it is. Never understood a single word he said, but he always wise. He always made me very good and wise. Singing joy on your feet to the world. All the boys and girls now. Joy to the fishes in the deep blue sea. Joy to you and one more time for Finley. Joy to the world. All the boys and girls now. Joy to the fishes in the deep blue sea. Joy to you and me. Joy to the fishes in the deep blue sea. Joy to you and me. Godspeed, Finley. We love you. Thank you to all those who were joining us online.